Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this Boutique Hotel News webinar in partnership with Vamoos. So today we're going to be talking about technology's changing role in delivering a boutique hotel experience. Technology is obviously a massive subject that covers all elements of hotel operations, and the speed at which it's been changing has been increased dramatically by the COVID pandemic. Just a few housekeeping rules before we get started. If you wouldn't mind keeping your camera and audio off, that would be fantastic. We're going to have about a 35-minute discussion with our panelists, followed by a 10-minute Q&A session. If you have any questions, please do submit them using the chat function in Zoom, and we'll try to get around to answering as many of those as we can towards the end of the session. There'll be a recording of the session going out to everyone who is registered via email tomorrow. My name's George Sell. I'm Editor-in-Chief at International Hospitality Media. We are an online B2B publisher and events organizer for the hospitality industry. And before we get started, I just wanted to give the conversation a bit of context, just to show how dominant a theme technology has been across the industry. And this is reflected by the numerous stories that we've run on our websites about the various types of technology in the hotel sector. So here are a few. And a few more. So it was a massive topic before the pandemic started, and the pandemic has only accelerated its importance. Pleased to say we've got a fantastic panel of speakers here today. Alisdair Luxmoore, CEO of Vamoos, Eva Mount, General Manager of the Guardsman in London, Valli, Senior VP of Sales and Marketing at RMS, Malik Fernando, Managing Director at Resplendent Ceylon, and Eva Mount, who heads up Sales and Marketing at Tintswalo Lodges in South Africa. So Eva, maybe we could kick off with you. Perhaps you could tell us how the pandemic has affected you at the Guardsman, and if it has changed the way that you use technology at the hotel.
We were due to open in April, a week into the first lockdown. So trying to keep in touch with the team's been really important. And, you know, a lot of it was by Zoom or by Microsoft Teams. And it was nice to be able to have very large meetings with the entire team in that way. Other than that, it's been WhatsApp. WhatsApp's been our savior. We've communicated pretty much everything through on a day-to-day basis through WhatsApp, as some of the team are furloughed, some of them aren't furloughed. So it's very much been in that respect in keeping in touch. A lot of our guests are emailing us, and that's how the communications have come through from our guests. So I haven't actually had the experience of using a lot of technology in a live sense with our guests, because we've had so few during the 12 days of trading that we had.
Did you have to bring in things like temperature readers and that kind of stuff in the short time you were open?
We had one that we got for our own peace of mind for our staff members, but we didn't temperature probe any guests. We didn't check any guest temperature. No.
Okay.
I mean, our cleanliness, we're a brand new hotel. We're lucky that we're using a hospital grade cleaning system, and we haven't had any concerns in respect of having COVID in the property so far. Touch wood, we don't.
Thanks, Eva. Malik, how about you? How have you been affected? You mentioned that you had to close for quite a while, but did you have to introduce any new measures to the properties?
Yeah, we did. I mean, I'm based in Colombo, which is the capital city, and the resorts are in remote areas. So we've needed to digitize and automate to a significant extent. But I think for us, one of the first things we did, we're small, we've got less than 100 keys between the 3 resorts. We actually put our heads together and came up with a pretty comprehensive health and safety protocol called Safe Stay, which we actually offered to the rest of the tourism industry in Sri Lanka. And we, a very, very thorough protocol, including temperature reading, but a lot of unobtrusive checks, because we didn't want to make the hotels look like hospitals. That's the last thing people want when they go on a holiday. But we use temperature checks and other kinds of scanning equipment, luggage, disinfection systems, and so on. But as I said, in a very unobtrusive manner. I think one of the biggest advantages was, just to keep the team going. We use Slack a huge deal, and basically we've sort of said, look, don't email unless it's absolutely essential. But Slack has been really, really good, setting up multiple channels, so the health and safety teams and so on. So that's something which we were anyhow using, but that's really accelerated. Obviously, Zoom has been a godsend, and we have a daily, not so much now, but in the first few months, we had a daily health and safety meeting on Zoom. We've used Revinate. We actually switched or installed Revinate midway because we realized that we had to rely on a local domestic base, and the best way of reaching them was through email, right? As opposed to social advertising. So Revinate, their marketing module, has been pretty effective in terms of keeping in touch and converting to bookings and so on. And we've used that also to reach out to travel advisors, because everyone's dying to know what's going on, and they want a lot more interaction than usual. And obviously they're not that busy with empty inboxes. So we've actually been ramping up the kind of newsletters we've been sending out, but with more more interesting stuff. We've actually done a lot more videos in the resort in terms of what's going on here, and just because a lot of our resorts are pristine, off-grid, what's going on with this particular leopard family, what's going on in this particular field. We've got, leopards even up in the tea country. So we've used technology to actually connect with our guests more often than we did before, and just to kind of remind them of their holidays and to take their mind off the stresses and strains of everyday life by bringing them a nice slice of nature from our resort. So I would say that we've kind of ramped up significantly how we're using these tools.
Mm-hmm. Have you found a difference in the way that people want to interact with staff at the guest now? Are they more concerned with contactless experiences and doing things via apps rather than a face-to-face interaction?
I must say that in our case, we've kind of went through that discussion, and we felt that we couldn't, we didn't want to automate that interaction, that personal thing, because particularly at our kind of positioning, George, with Relais Chateau and that kind of personalized family approach, we have all the protocols, and everyone is masked, and we take temperature readings twice a day for all guests and staff. We didn't want to automate that too much, but what we've done is pre-arrival, post-arrival, gathering preferences, and upselling and so on. We'd use technology. But when say in the resort, I've tried these what do we call it, the digital concierges, or to make requests. We still like to do it personally on the phone, or a butler would visit. So we've had to strike a balance there. But before and after the visit, yeah, we optimize tech.
Mm-hmm. Eva, what about you? You haven't been open long at the Guardsman, but you've got a lot of experience in London hotels. Have you noticed the way that guests want to interact with staff changing over the years? And is it more tech-based now?
I think in boutique hotels, certainly guests like to read a lot and do a lot of research in advance. So a guest is much more likely to come with you with their ideas, or that they've seen something and they want to know our opinion as to whether it would be theatre or a restaurant, or people really want to know your personal experience of attending a restaurant. What's your, is this the restaurant you'd recommend? Have you dined there? What's your favorite dish? Where do you go shopping? You know, they like the insider knowledge, I think, a lot. And that's why I think they like to stay in boutique hotels, because they know that we know the areas, we know a lot of people who be the head waiter or the maitre d' or the doorman, and can recommend from our experience. But they do like to do a lot of research. And there are occasions when they'll come and talk to us about something that we actually haven't researched or didn't know about, which is quite interesting. In terms of recently, we've actually got QR codes for our menus and stuff now. The technology has certainly helped in that. And I think in opening, it's, you know, every opening is different. This is an opening I'm never ever going to forget. I have to be really honest with you. But actually, we've used technology in a really different way, because, you know, usually you'd have a beautiful leather bound guest directory, which would be full of information in the area. And because we knew that we were opening, you know, during this pandemic, it was really trying to reduce the amount of single-use paper or anything that we were going to have in the hotel. So a lot of this we've actually put onto our TV. And I have to be honest with you, the owners, the directors, when they made the decisions on the hotel, they used a lot of tech. It's very technologically advanced. So we've got smart TVs, and you can look at all the menus on the TVs. We've got all the menus on QR codes, which is so simple to use. But also, because we're having or have had difficulty with suppliers, which is extraordinary, because usually in London you can get 2 deliveries of fish a day, 2 deliveries of cheese a day, whatever you want, you can get 2 deliveries a day. You can't anymore. So it's enabled us to be able to change our menus very quickly, and to be able to do, you know, upload them then on the TVs and change your QR codes and print them out if you want them. But I think the guests aren't looking for less interaction. In some regard, I think our guests were looking for more interaction, because they see such few people. They actually want to chat to you. They want to know how it's impacted the opening of the hotel. We're still rooming guests, and we're lucky that we have, you know, we've got 53 rooms and 6 residents, but we've actually got 3 lifts. So we could room guests and send them into one lift, you know, go up in another lift, you know, open the door, still be able to be masked and, you know, be able to sanitize their luggage, but still be able to room them and show them around the room in a way that I think they would expect to happen in any 5-star hotel. So I think that's actually been really nice, and people really do want to interact. And it's important for us as well, because particularly when you open a hotel, you want feedback, which has been lovely.
And do those interactions, particularly the requests of things to do in the neighbourhood, do they start pre-stay?
Usually, yes. Yeah. Yes, definitely, without a doubt. And usually because they in their mind, you know, they've already decided what the things they want to do over the 2 or 3 days that they're going to be with you. I mean, now there's virtually nothing anyone can do, and now obviously we're closed. But before that, people would want to know, you know, there's no theatre on, is there anything we can do in the evening? But actually a lot of guests were staying in the hotel and using all the different spaces. And that's really nice, because people don't tend to do that. It used to be a guest could stay 4 or 5 nights and they dine with you once, whereas now they're dining with you probably lunch and dinner. Mm-hmm. That's kind of nice.
Yeah, thanks, Eva. Alisdair, do you want to touch on how technology and apps such as yours can actually help in the situation that Eva's just mentioned in terms of reducing items that need physical contact, so menus, folders, that kind of stuff, and also how they can help a hotel build bridges with local businesses and local communities and forge synchronicities there?
Sure, thanks, George. Yeah, yes, no, I think it is, and I think it's really important to say any of these apps or technologies are definitely not about replacing human contact. It's about making it better and enhancing it, and, you know, if possible, getting rid of some of the mundane and really focusing on those very high value contacts where you really are adding the experience, and then broadening it. I mean, you know, the good example is letting people see menus and things even before they arrive, in that sense, and letting them build up to their stay and seeing, thinking about the things things they want to do and how they want to interact. But there's definitely evidence that, you know, people have changed their attitude towards tech. We were expecting, and our pilots were showing sort of 40% of people being happy to use a sort of concierge app, but you know, as soon as the July reopening in the UK happened, that shot up to sort of 70, even some were reporting 80%. So there's definitely a much more willingness to try these things and engage in them, and they work at various different levels. The obvious one, as you say, is replacing the sort of the hard copy, the room directories, the hotel guides, and it's just so much better when it's tech focused, because instead of reading through lists and saying, right, well, do I connect to the internet, you looking to have to look up Wi-Fi or connection or whatever, you just put in a quick search and things. And the second area, as you say, is that engaging with the local businesses, and this is, and whether it's restaurants, theatres, museums, and at the moment that is particularly challenging, of course, because they're all changing their status regularly, and if you're having to reprint room guides to do recommendations, then obviously that's very time consuming, whereas on a digital platform you can do updates as often as you like, and even real time, and in that sense. And the third is the messaging aspect as well, that ability for people, if they don't need to have the contact, everyone is so used to using chat, and I think find it less intrusive than picking up a phone and dialing room service. So to be able to quickly do a message on something relatively trivial and enhancing the experience. One of my favorite quotes from our one of our early users was, "We didn't believe they would use the messaging to order drinks on the croquet lawn, but oh yes they do," and that's a service that just wasn't possible through physical interaction before. And using technology makes it easy and simple for everybody concerned.
Presumably, it's also a channel to find incremental revenue and to upsell to guests in a subtle way. Do you think that apps such as yours enable hotels to make more revenue per guest?
Oh, clearly, and the real opportunity, and I think where the whole vision for Vamoos, whether it was for tour operators or for hotels, is to fill that huge gap between the time they first book and the time they arrive. This is a big purchase. It's a very exciting purchase that your guests are making, and just sending a simple confirmation saying thank you for booking is really not doing it justice, doing yourself justice, or doing the relationship justice. So using technology in that time period to get people excited about the stay, and you don't even need to think of it in terms of upselling. If you're getting them exciting, the upselling will follow immediately. If they're having a browse of what's available in the spa, if they're having a look at what menus you're offering and how you're changing that through the day in the restaurant, that is going to preempt it. And then of course, yes, you can communicate those as well with upgrade offers, whether it's room stays or activities. But it's that, I think as an industry, that window between booking and between arriving, we have absolutely neglected in terms of building the excitement, building the loyalty, and ultimately building the upselling opportunities.
Yeah, thanks, Alisdair. I understand Yvonne is now online. Yvonne, do you want to introduce yourself quickly and perhaps talk about your experiences and how they tally with some of what Alisdair was just touching on there? Oh, you're muted at the moment.
Sorry. My name is Yvonne Skerritt. I'm from Tintswalo Lodges in South Africa, in Johannesburg. Yeah, we've been using Vamoos, and yeah, we're finding that it works very, very well, and especially during COVID, you know, which is when we sort of came on board, and we started off with one lodge using it, which was Tintswalo Atlantic. And we've seen it's gone extremely well. I mean, obviously, Tintswalo Atlantic is the most popular one at the moment with COVID restrictions, etc. So yeah, so we're seeing quite a lot of use on it, and it's working extremely well for us. And a lot of people also quite like it, obviously because of COVID, you know, not filling in the forms and things. It's just so much quicker. It's so much easier to do. And yeah, it's going very, very well.
So Yvonne and Malik, you both operate properties where there's quite a bit of emphasis on the natural world and being outdoors And I was thinking perhaps that might mean that some people would be less inclined to want to use technology all day and be on their phones all day. But have we gone beyond that point now? Is everybody permanently glued to their phones?
Yeah, I think so. I do think, yeah, even with nature though, you know, most people have got a phone in their hand because they're taking photographs or they're commenting to people all the time. So yeah, so a lot of people, even as I said, you know, I mean, you know, we've got the lodges up in the Kruger and things, and of course everybody wants to share and do things with technology, don't they? They, you know, I mean, even to the fact that we do virtual safaris, you know, I mean, that says it all.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Yvonne. Does that tally with your experience, Malik? Are people online all the time?
Not a huge amount, I must say, because I mean, in the sense that, well, T-Trails, which is one of our resorts, we don't have phones in the rooms, we don't have television in the rooms. I mean, people generally come to really switch off and unwind. But there can be a role for tech. I mean, after listening to Alisdair, I really want to, although I was skeptical initially, I'd like to sort of maybe dabble around and see whether we could bring it in a particular manner. One thing I'm concerned about is also the screen size, in the sense that if someone's looking at it off a little tiny little screen, whether we look at giving them iPads so that the whole experience of navigating the app is more in keeping with the product, you know, instead of purely just doing it off your mobile. So I think selectively it can play a role, particularly in sharing information. We've started using Trip Creator to create local itineraries and programs, and we've digitized it that way, but obviously that doesn't have the functionality of Vamoos. But I think it's worth looking at expanding it to consume information. At our positioning, I'd probably still want to have the interaction in a traditional manner, but I think to consume pre-arrival and in-stay, to glance through menus, to see what the specials are, what the cocktails are. I mean, I think it increasingly makes sense, you know, even at the more personalized family type boutique resorts.
Yeah,
I would like to give it a go.
Thanks, Malik. I should mention that everybody who's on the call, their LinkedIn details are in the chat. So if you'd like to carry on the discussion with them after the session, then please contact them on there. And please submit your questions in the chat function, and we'll get around to those shortly. So we've spoken quite a bit about guest-facing technology. Let's move on briefly to behind the scenes, kind of back of house technology. So Zen, you come from one of the leading PMS providers. So what's new in that space? How are PMS systems evolving, and how do you see that going in the future?
I mean, what we found over the last few months is that hoteliers have really had to adapt their strategies post initial kind of lockdown restrictions lifting. In the city properties, especially when it comes to boutique hotel spaces, there's been a decline in guests as well, and a decline in consumer demand. So what hoteliers have done is utilize PMS technologies to kind of branch out to different areas, whether that be co-working spaces, whether that be utilizing the functionality that's available in the property management system to explore additional revenue streams. And the booking journey, I think Alisdair touched on that earlier as well, has been quite crucial, because more and more people have been booking directly with the boutique hotel space. So that internet IBE experience has been quite significant in the amount of inquiries that we've received as a company as well. I mean, the rise in contactless tech has been we've seen a number of larger inquiries coming in when it comes to contactless technology. Even things as simple as SMS technology, which has been around for a number of years, to basically structure the amount of people that are in the reception area at any given time, has seen an increase in people kind of taking that up as well. So it's been quite interesting, actually. So
you think that the level of direct booking has gone up during?
Yes. So more and more, more and more people seem to be doing their research when it comes to the boutique hotel space, and either calling the property directly or booking directly on their booking engine has seen an increase. We've released our new booking engine a couple of weeks ago as well, actually based on or feedback from our customers as to what they'd like to see, and having that seamless booking experience in the direct website or at the direct website for the property has seen quite a good significant return as well, and that business moving away slightly from the OTAs.
Yvonne, have you seen any difference in the level of business coming to you via OTAs and direct in the last few months? Oh, I think you're on mute again, Yvonne.
I'm trying to be good because I've got dogs and all sorts of things going on here. Okay, yeah, we have seen a lot more direct bookings coming through. Not so many on the OTAs, not so many with the agents. We're getting a lot of people wanting to do it direct, so that's quite nice. But I mean, it's not for the international guests, obviously, at the moment. Although South Africa has opened up now to everybody, we're actually not seeing any international guests coming in, so it's all local. So I think the local people are actually calling us direct, or like going on to online and booking directly with us, or going on to a few of the booking channels like bookings.com, etc. But most of them seem to have this perception as well that I think they'll get a better deal if they come directly through to us. I don't know why they've got that perception, but they do. But yes, I think we're seeing a lot more. Again, it's different areas as well. We're finding that the lodges, safari lodges, are becoming a little bit more popular now coming up for Christmas and the Christmas holidays. But Cape Town has really taken off with Tintswalo Atlantic and Tintswalo Boulders. So we're seeing a lot of people in Cape Town wanting to come out to just to further afield, just to get away and I suppose have a little bit of an escape. So yeah, we are seeing that.
Great, thanks, Yvonne.
Just to add to that, behind the scenes as well, when it comes to cleans, housekeeping, things like that, there has been, from a property management perspective, more and more properties are utilizing functionality such as the staff portal to make sure that there's additional cleans that are being completed, especially in public area spaces, things like that. So even though these functionalities have been around for quite a significant amount of time, as a property management system company predominantly, we've had to roll out more and more training over the last few months. So people are actually taking that on board and they're utilizing that to manage the guest cleanliness and safety on site since reopening, which has been quite interesting as well.
I know that compatibility between systems has traditionally been a big issue across the industry. Is that improving? Let's go to you first then, and then we'll ask a hotelier and see what they think.
I think with the open API and the compatibility between the systems it's an expectation now. So when you look at previous kind of historical property management systems, there's the property management system. They offer, the booking engine, the EPOS system, and a couple of different components. But now when it comes to compatibility, you have to not allow, I don't know if that's the right word, but you have to have the functionality available for hoteliers to basically operate their business in whichever way they want and not be mandated to have your booking engine, to have, I don't know, your EPOS system, to operate their business the way they want to operate it. Regionally, internationally, obviously, them requirements change quite drastically based on where the hotel is and what space it operates in. So we operate on that model, even if it's just something as simple as a channel manager. If a hotel wants to select a specific channel manager, then they should have the capabilities and the ability to do that. So yeah, from your point, it is crucial to have that seamless kind of two-way connectivity between any integration that a hotel would like to integrate when it comes to tech, whether that's internal or customer facing.
Mm-hmm. Eva, does that tally with your experience? Are you using fewer systems now than you would have done previously, or are you using more but they work better together?
I'm actually using old brand new systems that I've never used before. The hotel that I've just opened, we're using Aloha and Protelair, and I haven't actually used them before. I'm glad to say they're simple enough for me to be able to understand. Somebody who's yeah, so I've managed to find my way around them. But I think the good thing about technology is now I personally was involved in the website and in Synexus in the setting up. So, and I'd never done Synexus training before, so that was really, really interesting. But it is, you know, I think, as Anna said, virtually there is a suite of technology that you can choose, and you can choose the functionality to make sure that everything communicates together. And if it doesn't, that there is another mechanism to join them all together. That's the most important from a hotel year's perspective, so that we know we have a different health and safety system called Compliance Center, but we get information from that. A lot of that is brought then by email, because as long as everything has a dashboard and you can log into all of your dashboards to see that everything is communicating and interfacing, I think, you know, it's fine. It's really expensive and very time consuming to do setup for these things. So I think that's something that we need to look at. And the more that works together, the better it is for us as hoteliers, and easier then to move around the business and around the industry and work internationally or not.
Yeah, okay, thanks, Eva. So we're going to start going to the questions now. We've got quite a few coming in the chat. Please do submit a question there if you have one. The first one, I think, is probably best addressed to you, Alisdair, because it came in when we were talking about Vamoos earlier. Steph Ferreira has asked, can this technology be used offline? What happens if you're struggling with internet connection? Our camps are very remote.
Yeah, no, that's a great question, and you know, we started our life as Vamoos doing exotic travel all around the jungles and the wildernesses of the world, and so, you know, the vast majority for us can be used offline. Even the maps work offline. I have personally navigated to a lodge in the Kruger using just offline, using just the offline maps. Which is a very powerful facility. Now, clearly there are some, like messaging, where you have to be online by definition. You need to be connected. But by having that info offline, and you know, our vision is if someone's on a plane going to visit one of your properties, they're able to browse the vast majority of the facilities, even the videos that you may have chosen to upload on our platform, and that's been a key feature of it. I think another point I'd just like to make quickly, going back to that point about different systems and integration, and I have this is a bit of a bugbear of mine, that I see hoteliers and indeed other travel businesses getting very scared and getting bamboozled into fitting systems that are unbelievably complicated and take a long time. And my strong advice there is, you know, if someone's talking about large amounts of setup, you really question it very, very, very carefully. When our promise is we can get a hotel up and running on 90 with using 90% of Vamoos within, you know, a couple of hours of them engaging with us, and then you learn. And that's the key thing about it, to use these different technologies. Don't believe all the promises you're given, but try and find out what works for your staff, what works for your guests, and then enhance those bits, rather than having to take the whole every single aspect of it from the day you launch it. Get it up and running quickly, and then start learning is always the trick with any new technologies, because no one knows the answers of how it's going to be most effective. Yeah,
thanks, Alisdair. I've got a question here from Patrick Jones, who's the GM at Tewkesbury Park. This one is, I think we'll come to you for this one, Eva, as you're in a brand new hotel. Patrick says, when this is all over, we're planning further investment into our hotel bedrooms. What fixed technology should we be considering to future-proof our rooms for, say, the next 7 years? I'm thinking of music screens, integrations, etc., rather than high-speed Wi-Fi, which we already have. I'm not sure that many of our guests watch TV anymore or are bothered about smart TV settings. Instead, they'd rather be able to cast from their own devices in a simple and easy way.
I agree.
So, as you're in a new property, what's your take on that?
Yeah, I totally agree. Chromecast, amazing. Our TVs have integrated Chromecast, it's the answer to everything, because you bring your tablet wherever you're going, or you bring your smartphone, and you literally just flick it up onto the screen, and it's really effective. Very simple. It's integrated now on TVs. The TVs do have to have Wi-Fi though, anyway, in order to be able to use that. But it also cuts down on all of the other equipment that you need to have in the rooms in terms of information. You don't necessarily need to have menus. You don't need to have wine lists. You can put everything up onto the TV screen. I think that's the one bit of technology I would get the best you possibly can.
Mm-hmm. There was a phase, particularly in London a few years ago, when it seemed that everything that was automated could be automated. So you couldn't walk over to the window and draw the curtains yourself. You had to, you know, it was electric, and you had to use a tablet to do it. Is that kind of stuff out of favour now, this sort of technology for the sake of it?
Yeah, I think so. We have a system. Our system's great because it's a really secure hotel. So the key system is, so you need to put, I mean, we've tried to be very conscious about using energy and about having a purpose and trying to reduce anything that's single-use plastic and work, you know, in the environment and all the rest of it. And you can actually adapt change your lights with the TV system. You can, you know, change the aircon and all the rest of it. It's a nice facility to have. I'm not necessarily sure that many guests are going to use it, but they're definitely going to want to use Chromecast. They're definitely going to want to use their own Netflix or whatever it is that they use at home. I think that would be the number one thing. I'm not mad about having a remote control. It's nice, but, you know, who wants to sit in bed and have the remote control to open the curtains or, you know, to do your blinds or all the rest of it? I don't think that's really where the investment should be. I think it has to be with the technology. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Eva. We've got a question here from Dean Strange. She says, we found that when considering guest safety, when they've returned during 2020, they're reassured with the measures we've put in place, and staycations have been a big plus for our hotel this year. Has anyone found that vendors have been considerate in 2020 with their costs and support fees? I guess he's saying, are tech suppliers being flexible on price with hoteliers who have, you know, let's not beat around the bush, they've had a tough year. Does anyone want to?
Yeah, I mean, George, we've had, since not just because Zen is here, but I mean, I think RMS have been great in that respect with their hardship discounts, and they came to us unilaterally even before we reached out. So I think RMS is a great case in point in kind of sharing our pain, for sure.
Yeah, just to add to that, thanks for that feedback, Malik. We have actually taken we've contacted our hoteliers actively and asked them if they require any additional support when it comes to the cost that they're paying RMS. And even when it comes to implementing the technology, I mean, we've seen a large number of new inquiries coming in, and having that model where there's an initial huge outlay to implement new technology within properties is a little bit more dated now, and properties just want more of a collaborative model where there isn't a huge outlay and they're just paying, you know, monthly fees, which incorporates all aspects of the technology that they're implementing at the time. So yeah, I'd like to say that we've been quite considerate with costs and with support fees in 2020 and with new onboarding as well.
Thanks, Sam. So we're nearing the end of our time now, but we've got one last question here, which is a good one from Eloise Hansen at BHN, which is, how can technology influence customer loyalty? It would be good to hear that from a hotelier's perspective and a supplier's perspective. So, Alisdair, do you want to give us your perspective on that first?
Hi, thanks, George. Yeah, no, well, obviously the key thing, I would say this, wouldn't I? But with a concierge app, the key thing about that is they are very unlikely to delete it the minute they leave. And in fact, if they've built a great relationship with you and your teams, you know, they're going to be interested in it. And that's the trick about how to use it. And we have a facility we call Inspirations, whereby you can upload sort of messages and offers, so it's always there for when people look at it again. But just by keeping a photo library updated and informing people when there's been a nice wildlife sighting or something like that is a fabulous way to keep people engaged, so that, you know, they're not having to think, where was that place I stayed last time? It's there. It's there for a reminder the whole time. And I heard a lovely quote from a customer saying, "Look, if I've had a bad day at work, I'm coming home on the tube." Yep, this was pre-lockdown, so I can get my app out and start having a look at the sort of the places I've stayed and the places I'm going to stay. And, you know, what greater way of engaging with guests is there.
Yeah, thanks, Alice. Does that correspond with your guest experience, Yvonne?
To mute. Yes, it does. Yeah, I mean, I mean, we, as Amma said, you know, we use the technology on Vamoos and things, and yeah, it does definitely work with us. Yeah, we've seen a lot of, as I said, uptake on it, and yeah, the guests, they want to connect with you, and it's nice to be able to do that, you know, and you know, just silly things like they'll come through and want to know another price for another date. So of course that does obviously bring loyalty to you, and they want to know, you know, if you've got anything happening, you know, if you're extending or you're improving the property, etc. So it is nice because we do get messages from them, you know, through the systems. So yeah, I do think it does bring in loyalty. And like you said, you know, the great thing is they don't delete the app straight away. They keep on using that app. And yeah, it's worked very, very well for us. We're really enjoying it, and we know our guests are too.
Great stuff. Thanks, Yvonne. Thank you, everybody, for all your contributions today. I just want to, before we sign off, just show one quick slide to plug something we're doing that I think you might all be interested in. So myself and my colleagues, Eloise and Paul, are each doing a trend webinar for 2021 for the respective sectors that our websites cover. So I'll be doing service departments, Eloise will be doing boutique hotels, and Paul will be doing short-term rentals, and they're taking place in the first week of December. There's info about how to sign up for those in the chat, so it'd be great to see some of you on there. If you'd like to find out more about Vamoos, then please contact Claire, whose details are there. Thanks to them for sponsoring the session today. I think it's been really interesting chat. We've covered quite a lot of ground. It's obviously a very in-depth subject, but I think it's been a really useful discussion today. So thanks very much to Eva, to Alisdair, to Malik, to Zen, to Yvonne, and to all of you who've joined us, and enjoy the rest of your week. Thank you very much.
Thank you, George.
Thanks, George. Bye, everyone. Nice to meet you all.
Thanks. Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.